A new species walks on the ocean floor using its fins like legs and has a glowing lure on its head to catch prey. A blind eel with see-through skin and no eyes was found around 5 kilometers deep, and a tiny translucent creature with bright red tentacles and huge eyes pulses through the water near Western Australia. These are strange creatures recently found in the Indian Ocean. Scientists exploring the Indian Ocean near the Cocos or Keeling Islands recently hauled up a deep-sea batfish, and this thing is honestly pretty weird. It's a flat pancake-shaped fish that actually walks across the ocean floor using its fins a bit like legs. It doesn't swim much like other fish, it kind of waddles and creeps along. One of the coolest things about it is its built-in lure on its head. It has this little fleshy rod that sticks out in front of its mouth, which it wiggles to trick smaller fish into swimming close enough to get snatched up. These batfish live in complete darkness at insane depths where the pressure would crush most creatures, but they've adapted to survive, moving slowly and conserving energy in a place where food is pretty hard to find. The one scientists found came from about 6 kilometers down, a part of the ocean floor that had barely been studied before. These creatures have been living down there totally unnoticed by humans, and chances are there's a lot more waiting to be discovered. And there was. On the same expedition, researchers discovered a blind eel that might be one of the strangest animals pulled out of the Indian Ocean. It's a soft-bodied eel with completely gelatinous, see-through skin. You can literally see its organs moving inside its body. It's wild to look at. It has no eyes at all because down there where it lives, about 5 kilometers below the surface, there's no light, so vision really isn't much help. Instead, it uses chemical signals and touch to find its way around, and unlike most fish, this eel gives birth to live young instead of laying eggs, which is pretty unusual for deep-sea creatures. Scientists said it was probably cruising around deep trenches and volcanic ridges, places that are basically untouched. A brand new species called however the hell this is pronounced. I'll just go by its nickname, the Carnarvon Flapjack Octopus, which was officially named in May of 2025 after being pulled up during a 2022 research cruise around Western Australia's Cocos and Carnarvon Canyon Marine Parks. So these little guys are about 4 centimeters across, not much bigger than a golf ball. They're soft, squishy, almost see-through with bright red tentacles and huge eyes that stand out in the deep darkness. They don't swim like your average octopus. Instead, they sort of pulse through the water, and they can flatten themselves to lie right on the seafloor. As you can see, they look kind of like pancakes, hence the name. Not a pancake I'd ever want to eat though. If I saw that on my plate, I'd be a little freaked out. In 2023, researchers working off the coast of Seychelles found 2 guitarfish species that were completely new to science. Guitarfish are weird looking to begin with. They got these flat bodies and long snouts. It almost looks like someone mashed a shark and a stingray together. But these 2 new ones stood out because they were hanging around coral reef areas much deeper than where most guitarfish usually live. Normally you'd find these guys in shallower sandy spots. Turns out though, there's a whole side of their world we didn't even know about, completely unnoticed until someone finally went looking. What's also worrying though is that guitarfish in general are in serious trouble. They're heavily overfished because their fins are used in shark fin soup. And since they live near the bottom, they get scooped up by trawlers all the time. Scientists are still trying to figure out how many of these newly found ones are out there and how bad the threats might already be. This next story is taking up 2 spots on the list. Deep down off the coast of Kerala, India, scientists recently discovered 2 new species of deep-sea eels. These ones live in the dark, crushing depths of the ocean. There's barely any light down there. One of the species belongs to a family of eel which hadn't been reported from Indian waters before. Both eels are long, thin, kind of creepy looking. They're a bit pale, sort of like me. They were found during deep-sea surveys looking for unknown ocean creatures. What's cool is how these eels survive down there. They've adapted to extreme cold and pressure, and their bodies are built for slipping through tight spaces in the seabed. Unlike shallow water eels, these deep-sea versions probably feed on tiny crustaceans or leftover scraps that drift down from above. Because these things come from such deep, dark places, there's still a ton we don't know about their behavior or life cycles. Finding new eel species like this is a big deal though, since deep sea ecosystems are still mostly a mystery. The coelacanth is a living fossil, a fish that's been around for over 400 million years, practically unchanged. But what I'm talking about today is a relatively recent discovery, first identified off the coast of Sulawesi in Indonesia in the early 90s. Unlike its famous cousin found near Africa, the Indonesian coelacanth lives in deep underwater caves and volcanic slopes in the Indonesian archipelago. These fish are huge, sometimes reaching over 6 feet long, and have weird lobed fins that look more like limbs than typical fish fins. That's part of what makes them so interesting for scientists. They give them clues about how fish might have evolved into the first land animals. Coelacanths are nocturnal, spend most of the day hiding in caves, coming out at night to hunt smaller fish and squid. Back in October of 2024, scientists off Madagascar Ridge identified a brand new skate species they're calling the brown longnose skate. So these things can grow over 70 centimeters long. They found 8 of them living way down, about 750 to 1,050 meters deep, swimming around one of the underwater mountains out there. What's pretty interesting is this skate might only live in that one specific area. That's not unusual for deep sea creatures, but it does make them pretty easy to miss and pretty easy to wipe out from fishing. Skates like this are slow growers. They don't reproduce quickly, and they tend to stick to the same places. The problem is, bottom trawlers have already been active in parts of this region, and if fishing pushes into the skate's territory, it could be in serious trouble before we even get a chance to study it properly. The wild part is this isn't some untouched part of the ocean. This is a place where people have been fishing for a while, and we're just now finding out the brown longnose skate was living there the whole time. That's pretty crazy. In late 2024, researchers exploring deep reef zones off the Maldives found a brand new species of damselfish called Chromis abida. It's a small, pale fish with this soft bluish shimmer to it. It's not the kind of thing that jumps out at you underwater. It blends in so well, which is probably why nobody noticed it until now. The fish was found hanging around mesophotic reefs, which are deep parts of the ocean where some sunlight still reaches, but not nearly as much as shallow reefs. Of course, they're also deeper than most people dive, usually about 100 to 150 meters down. These reef zones don't get a lot of attention, but they're packed with life. Scientists found this fish at a number of different sites, so it's not like it's super rare. It's just we haven't been looking in the right places. The ghostly damselfish, as it's known, probably spends most of its time darting in and out of cracks in the reef and hiding near sponges, staying away from predators. But the fact that such a common fish went unnoticed this long really makes you wonder how many other creatures are living down there, totally off our radar. Bigger, scarier, more dangerous ones. And scientists just recently identified a new species of shark called Etmopterus brose, or Barrie's lanternshark. It was discovered by shark expert Dr. David Ebert and his team. This new species is part of a shark group called Etmopterus, which is actually one of the most diverse shark groups in the world, with around 42 different species known so far. This one lives way down in the Indian Ocean, off the west coast of South Africa, down around southern Mozambique, and near the Madagascar Ridge. They live anywhere from 480 meters to 1,200 meters, or about 1,570 to 3,940 feet below the surface. Now, for a long time, this shark was misidentified for other species. It looks very similar to other sharks in its family, but what sets it apart is its skin and markings. Its body is covered in something called dermal denticles. So these are tiny tooth-like scales that protect its body. On this shark, the denticles are especially thick and packed tightly around the base of its dorsal fin. It also has a cool setup on the underside of its snout, a patch of tiny receptors called ampullae. These are sensitive to electric fields and help the shark detect prey. Think of it as a kind of sixth sense, super handy when hunting in total darkness. When it comes to color, Barrie's Lanternshark has a more subtle look than some other sharks. Instead of a sharp line dividing its darker top and lighter belly, the colors kind of blend together more smoothly. It's mostly all dark. This probably helps it blend in better in the deep water. I've been your host James, and I'll catch you, yes you specifically, in the next video.